then some
Who was
state.
that guy?
So
So you're gonna be here around this.
he's the one that said update.
Oh, it's just a little- so they-
That's hard, right?
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, otherwise, it would just run.
Yeah.
I don't know, you never know. right?
Get that text message.
Yep, yep, and maybe I talked, and, I talked to Benny, then I already got on this thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just let Kim know.
Yep, I did.
That.
Awesome.
Yes.
It's good to use this too. I mean,
Tyler is the water plant. Yeah.
He could use this too, right? He could use this, like, good, yeah. You know, silly. See what works out. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, how do you know that?
Yeah. Yeah, this is a small town where it's around.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be really funny.
It was a rat in the pile.
To our closed session.
So, yeah, that's.
I'm
Happy to make it higher for
Yeah,
lower.
as long as, like you say, we've got.
Might as well go to work.
We know this is a constant. What we'll do is fluctuate. That's not gonna hurt.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sounds good.
it's not gonna hurt that price unless we go way over, so, this is figuring 5% loss.
Yeah, that's the.
36, 34. So one-
Yeah, this is.
Yeah. All right, at 7 o'clock, I'm gonna call the meeting to order. Will everybody please join me in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, just a reminder, if you have a cell phone here, please make sure it's in vibrate or silent mode. Allison, will you please do roll call?
Dave Brugog,
Here.
Joe Boyd,
Here.
Bill Morris,
Here.
Liz Norris,
Here.
Ashley Richards,
Here.
Alex Shaker.
Here.
Okay, our first item of business is the consent agenda and the treasurer's reports. The consent agenda includes the open minutes and closed minutes from the March 4th board meeting and open minutes from the March 13th and March 20th work sessions. And we had closed for March 20th, I believe, also for salary reviews. So Financial statements and the payment of bills are also part of the consent agenda. Did anybody have any questions on the consent agenda or comments? Not, do we have a motion to approve consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Allison, roll call?
Joe Boyd.
Yes.
Bill Morris.
Yes.
Lynn Norris.
Yes.
Ashley Richard.
Yes.
Ellie Schrader.
Yes.
Next item is the citizens hearing. Denny, did anybody sign up? Okay, so citizens hearing is done. Next are the reports from me. On the status of the DCO grant, I've asked Denny to go ahead and start getting the surveying work done on that. There's work we need to do to get the sidewalk put in. Sarah, were you able to get a response on the follow-up?
I have not gotten a response yet, no.
Okay, so we haven't got final approval, but I'm pretty sure the sidewalk is a major safety issue, and we want to get started on that and be ready to do that, so. Okay, next on the agenda is the status of the sewer study and project. I think I forwarded an email to the trustees that showed our status on requesting federal grant money. To kind of recap, we were hoping to request and receive $18 million of federal grant money, $6 million from each of our 2 senators and $6 million from our representative. But because in Congress, they did not do a budget for next fiscal year, they did a continuing resolution. There was no money allocated for the directed congressional spending. And so Senator Duckworth's office is not even accepting applications right now. And we are unable to submit anything at this time. So the board is gonna have to think about this and decide, okay, are we at a point where, what do we wanna do? I don't think there's major grant money available other than through congressional directed spending, the pork barrel projects or whatever. And that's more limited now than what it was 10, 15 years ago. So we don't need to make a decision on that tonight, but we do need to look at that. I did send out what it would cost to do the project without any grant money at all, based on 20, 30, and 40-year loans and 2, 3, and 4% interest rates. I believe the cheapest was around $144 a month, which I don't believe we want to, put that kind of bill on our residents. A lot of them are retired and more or less fixed income. So we need to look at that and think about it and then decide within a meeting or two what we want to do.
I looked at the list for Tammy Duckworth for like this year, and there was even one Binward thing on there. I mean, so that's probably the right piece to be digging, but none of them were very big. There was like a $6 million for Army Corps of Engineers for something on the Mississippi, right? So they're getting a ton of money. But all the other ones for like villages and stuff, they were somewhere $1 million. There was a couple million. So it doesn't even look like they're as big as we need. So I don't know what's typical to even get funded that way, but it's the right category, it looks like, because there's even a Binward on there, but I still don't think they're gonna come up with 18 million through this funding vehicle from what it shows, so.
The year I went with the McLean County group out to DC and they gave their presentations, they requested a total of between 15 and $20 million. And that was for the airport, for Binward, and for normal different projects. And that did eventually get approved between those 3. But again, that's a one voice effort to where they've got a good relationship established with the representatives and senators. And it probably averaged about $6 million a piece for those 3 groups. So it has been done, like you said, the Mississippi River did, but none of the other projects that went to towns were near that small.
They're gonna look at how many people the money affects, right? So something for the airport affects a lot of people.
Yeah.
And they're gonna say, oh, this is just 700 water customers in Hudson, and then they want 18 million or 20 million.
So So that's the status on the sewer study. Again, we don't have to decide tonight, but let's try and make a decision in the next month or two on what we want to do with it, so. All right, next item on my agenda is to appoint an acting police chief if we need one. I think we all know our chief of police, Mark Cotty, has been elected mayor. And so Mark will need to resign before he can take the mayor's role, and he plans to resign at the beginning of May. We will have a period of a few days where we could be without a police chief. So I would like for someone of the trustees to make a motion to name Chris Lane as the acting chief of police between the time Mark Cotty resigns from his position and when our next mayor appoints a permanent police chief. So does that make sense?
Yeah, I can do it since Kevin's not here.
Okay,
Yeah, I make a motion to appoint Chris Lane, the acting police chief, during the period that Mark resigns and Chris becomes the real police chief. That's the right way to say it.
yes, okay. Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Are there any additional questions or discussions on this? Not, Allison, roll call vote?
Joe Boyd,
Yes,
Bill Morris,
Yes.
Lynn Norris.
Yes.
Ashley Richard.
Yes.
Ally Shoemaker. Yes.
Okay, the budget is also on our agenda for tonight, and I'm gonna wait with that until Lynn's has her topic, so we'll skip over that one for right now. Next on our agenda is our report from water, public property, streets and zoning. Denny.
2.58 million for the month, 83,000 for the day, and I believe Sarah told me we were at 11% loss, so we've been kind of on the watch, but we might have to start testing a few tiles to make sure we can keep that down. I've always, just to let everybody know, I've always kind of as far as opening the concession bathroom and stuff, kind of wait until I don't really see in the next 2-week forecast any nights below freezing, and we have that, I think, on Sunday, Monday night or something. So I plan to basically get that open on Monday. So I've kind of started Sarah and Carol have been getting questions about that, so kind of started to put out, but that's the target at this point to get those open. While I'm kind of on the parks, the power line stuff seems to be 90+% done. The new wires are up, the new poles are there. Over here in the park, right behind the beauty parlor, there's some pretty substantial ruts that lead right there to the playground area. And as soon as we get some dry dirt, which is not today, try to get those filled in. I know that they told me and Natalie that they were gonna take care of the restoration, but I'm not sure how long we wanna wait for them to take care of it, since we got the Easter egg hunt coming up, I think, next weekend probably. So we're gonna try to get that in more of a usable, presentable condition. The first limb pickup will be next Monday. I've been kind of whittling away at moving some dirt with Rich up at the new basin area. Phil kind of knows the plan of what we're doing there. Then I had started, maybe right when Lynn got back from her vacation, with where we're gonna move forward on the public works person, and talk with her in a direction, and then kind of as she is unfortunately on her way out, thanks for your service, is working with Joe and Phil on developing questions and description and stuff like that. So we've got several potential candidates that I think I'm gonna start reaching out to. The three of us can do interviews. That's the plan at the moment. If anybody has any objections to that, please let one of us know. The other thing is not just to thank both, well, Ashley is a shorter term, but Allison for all your years of helping me with filing stuff and ordinances and all that stuff, and then Dave as well as all your years of service. So appreciate that. That's all I have.
Thank you, Denny. Does anyone have any questions for Denny? Not, we'll move on to village marshal and EMA coordinator, Chief Cotty.
All right, everybody should have a copy of the written report that I prepared for you. You can see the hard statistics again at the top of the page. You can see the meetings I attended. One of them, most of those are pretty standard meetings, except the meeting with the technician sales rep for Midwest Equipment for the replacement of the generator here. That will be tomorrow. They will be out and replacing the generator here at the police department. We did have one accident with injuries. You can see that at Franklin and Broadway. A person had to be transported to the hospital with that. I did meet with our part of the EMA, the technician to update the weather siren antenna. There's now an outside antenna in the water house. So anyway, so the 3 sirens do work. Okay, so they do work. And I reviewed the CJIS requirements. CJIS is Criminal Justice Information System requirements for the police department, which include IT and building security. And there'll be some updates that I'll have to give you later about that. There'll be some changes that we have to do to meet the requirements of CJIS. Then Officer Hurd, he did complete his field training and he is on solo patrol. You've probably seen him out and about. He works 4 to 12. So you'll see him out and about in the evening hours. We issued 14 golf cart permits because it's getting warm. We're up to 23 now for the village. And of course we did our stop sign details and our school bus enforcement. But I did want to point out again that on March 19th, Officer Hurd observed a busload of Unit 5 school children being dropped off in the business district after I had set off the tornado warning siren on that 19th. They dropped the kids off, don't know why. The bus left and the kids were just there. So Officer Hurd took the initiative to take those kids and bring them into shelter. And then we called their parents and they could pick them up at the shelter where he took them to. So I really want to commend him for his actions. He took great action on that and solved the problem because the kids were pretty lost just being dropped off. Because that is not a Unit 5 bus stop. Okay, the grain elevator is not. So the St. Jude events is April 5th. That's this Saturday. All 3 officers, myself, Officer Lane, Officer Hurd will be working that event. So doing security, just keeping an eye on things, helping with parking, crowd control, and those types of things. And that's, like I said, this Saturday, April 5th. Any questions on that?
Do our IT folks know all about CJIS, or is that like a brand new thing?
No, that's not a brand new thing. In fact, they came in, Joe, and GNS did a great job. They got our computer systems and all of the security that was necessary to meet those requirements. And then also they did a pre-audit before CJIS comes in and does their audit. And they do their audits every few years. You don't know when exactly they're going to show up. but besides the IT, there's building security things, and it's gonna markedly change how we do business. So, if you want me to go into that, I can, if not,
Might as well.
okay. CJIS requirements for access to any law enforcement facility require that any visitors that come in, we have to check IDs, we have to have them sign in, and then we have to issue name tags. And that's just a requirement that CJIS has for law enforcement, police facilities, basically, such as our facility. The issue comes up that requiring people to sign in and to show an ID violates Open Meetings Act. Because you cannot require that for people to do that. So the end result of that is that in a short period of time, we'll have to find another venue to hold our meetings.
Can't we just say this is the police facility? We can't say this isn't the police facility?
No, it's all in one building, Joe.
Yeah, but put
It
lock
doesn't work.
doors all along this line.
Nah, I mean, I had them come out and do their pre-CJIS audit, and they came out and walked around the building, and they said, it doesn't matter, it's all one building. And you have access to a bathroom, you have access to anywhere within the building. It has to be that you check those IDs and have people sign in. And so it's just, there's no way around it, is what they said, there's no way around it. If it was a building next door, they could care less. But of course, it's not the building next door. So knowing that, and I knew that a couple months ago, I did talk to Mike O'Grady from the township, and he has offered that we could use the township building for our meetings if we so desire. So we'll have to make that change fairly soon to move from here to another venue, whether it's there or somewhere else. It can't really be the fire department, unfortunately. They have their meetings the same night we do. So we'll probably be moving to the town hall for future meetings. There's just no way around that. So that's what came out of the CJIS audit.
Will this affect planning commission meetings as
Yes.
well?
Yes. You really can't have any open meetings, anything that's subject to Open Meetings Act. If staff wanted to use it, let's say, Joe, you wanted to meet with Denny over here and sit over there in the conference room, that's not an open meeting. You can do that still, no problem, because it's not open to the public. Two trustees want to get together and sit over there, it's not an open meeting. But anything that becomes an open meeting, that's where it kicks into because the public has the right to have access to that meeting. Otherwise, if they don't have access, it's not an issue. But yes, planning meetings, because they're open, anything else that would be considerable.
How long is this supposed to be in the law? You said it's not new.
It's not new, it's been around for a while. In fact, it's just an example. I'm still on the normal police where I worked before. I'm president of their pension. And our attorney for our board, for our pension police, told us 10 years ago, you can't meet here anymore at the police department. It violates Open Meetings Act. Because normal police makes you sign in, they make you show an ID, they make you wear a name tag. And he says that violates Open Meetings Act. So we had to move our meeting from the police department to Parks and Rec, which isn't a police department. So we have our meetings in the Parks and Rec department of the town hall. So it's been around for a while. We haven't had an audit for a while, but when they come in and do the audit, and we're pretty much due for an audit, that's where they're going to, they could write us up for that. And the issue is if you don't comply with the CJIS requirements, that stands for Criminal Justice Information System, the state will take away our access to all their databases. Because it said you're not meeting our requirements. You can't run license plates, you can't run driver's license, you can't do criminal histories, you can't do anything with our federal or law enforcement databases. So it's a pretty big hammer there. So it has been a rule for a while. We just kind of flew under the radar for a while with not having to do that. But yeah, we do need to move and not have our meetings here.
And when we do move out of here, I'm sure we can work with, Mr. O'Grady and the township to
Oh, yeah.
move some of our equipment up there too. That we purchased for having meetings, for instance, the PA system.
Yeah, I'll talk to Mike and coordinate that and see what, they do have high-speed internet in that building now. So, that is an advantage. If no other questions, I'll move on to the EMA. And everything we did, you'll see that external antenna on the water house there. Not the prettiest looking antenna, but it's an antenna and it works. So all the sirens now work, all three in town. And the one at the Lake Bloomington. So we have 4 sirens now that all work. And so we're all set in and ready to go. We test our radios on a regular basis. Because now the county can set up the sirens or we can set up the sirens. We have 3 radios. I carry one. Dave's my backup, the mayor, and then we keep one here at the police department. So besides the county setting it up, any one of us 3 can set up the sirens whenever we want. Pretty simple process to do that. It's working really well so far. That's the only other issue about EMA is that eventually, I think during this next year, we'll need to discuss how we want to deal with the issue that if we have a power outage, how are we going to set off the sirens here at the main facility here? Because currently, I know, Joe, you looked at that for a while. Either you have to change generators or you need a different siren. If we want to do that, remember that if there is a power outage, and even if we had a generator here at this facility, it's not going to power the ones at Prairie View or at the fire department. It's only going to power the one here, not those other 2 or not the ones up at Lake Bloomington either. So that's just something to consider. And it's kind of a discussion on how we want to proceed. Is it cheaper to upgrade a generator? Is it cheaper to buy a different siren? However we want to try to do that, it's going to be a future, I think, discussion.
Yeah, when I looked, the new sirens run on 48 volts and you just throw some lead acid batteries down there. It was cheaper than getting a generator for sure. New
Yeah,
siren.
I'm sure it is.
But yeah, I also feel like if we've lost power, everybody knows the tornadoes coming. We've all grown up here. It gets really dark. The wind's blowing.
I know.
You lose power. You go to the basement. I don't know. I guess it's still good if the sirens go off. I don't know.
Yeah, and you see, that is a discussion, whether or not you want to have a backup or not.
Yeah.
I mean, that is, and it's a legitimate discussion because now, 20 years ago, you would definitely say, yes, I want that. But now, do you want to have that backup or not? Because of the fact that, your cell phone has access to the weather service and everything else. You have weather radios and everything else. It's just a discussion we'll have to have. And how we proceed, we may look at either the generator or, like you said, a backup siren that works off of batteries, or maybe we do nothing. But that's just a discussion we'll have to have in the committee.
Anyone have any questions for Chief Gotti? Thanks. I do want to add today, there were tornado warnings going off in Bloomington Normal.
Yep.
I'm not sure about Normal, and I believe Unit 5 held the buses today.
Yes, they did, which
So.
was a great thing.
All right, thank you, Chief. Next on our agenda is the report of standing committees. We'll start with finance, budget, contracts and employees, trustee Glenn.
I actually have stuff that I guess affects the budget that we'll be voting on. Should I go first?
Yeah.
Okay. So the first thing, I just goes with the way it's written. The first thing doesn't do the budget, we just do my budget stuff, then go back to you, or you don't care. Okay. So the first thing is discuss about the emergency pay policy. I sent it around to everybody. I didn't really get many comments. I discussed it with Sarah to make sure it wasn't like a pain for her. It basically says if your supervisor says it's an emergency. Did I send it to you too, Mark?
Yes,
So you can look at it from police perspective, and if the emergency, if their supervisor says it's an emergency, you know, we'll pay you time and a half, 2 hour minimum.
Right.
And so then there's all kinds of questions, right? I mean, talk to Denny about, you know, snow plowing. I guess we pay the time and a half for that. I don't know if that's an emergency, because you probably know the day before. But still, I mean, I think I'd like to pay people to come in at 3 a.m, like, plow snow, the time and a half. And I just didn't want Sarah to have, I would talk to Sarah to make sure she thinks it's clear, because they didn't want to hurt me. I don't want to have to decide whether this is an emergency or not. She thinks it's clear. She said she'll just ask the supervisor. But does anybody have questions about the text I sent out or about the policy?
No, it's not good, it's not.
No, I agree with it, seems fine.
I didn't like, what do I have to do to pass this? I didn't write up an ordinance. This is a change to our policy book, I guess. I didn't think about what this means.
Policy,
Yeah.
and then
And then we have to change.
Yeah, that's not an ordinance,
we
so.
probably should change it and get the updated policy into everybody's hands
Okay,
before we vote on it.
okay.
Really?
We should,
Oh, gotcha. You don't know.
so we have definitely,
I would change the policies. The company does that, or that's
No,
just
Sarah has
PDF?
access to
Okay.
it.
Okay, so we change that and then send the whole policy out to people and then vote on it like next month or something. Okay, so that's good. So let's,
that
I'll
way
get you that.
everybody's got it in black and white, we know what it
Okay,
is.
so I'll get you that, Sarah, and we'll figure out where it goes. I guess in the policy book. I think I already sent
And then
it to you.
Charles plays the copy.
Okay, okay. So the next thing I had was to discuss and vote and removing the 250 meter fee. And that goes with the third item, which is discuss options for water rate increases. So I think maybe I'll do the discuss the options for water rate increases first. I think I sent around a spreadsheet to everybody, and I know it was probably very confusing. The executive summary, you know, is that we've always just doubled what Bloomington billed us and then billed our residents that basically. And what I'm saying is since they're doubling what they're billing us, we shouldn't double that double. We should pick the number we need. So, you know, what we bill residents, there's some amount to cover what we're getting billed. And then the rest of what we're billing residents, we're using to pay Denny, we're using to buy pipes and stuff, right? So there's covering, purchasing the water, and then there's, you know, the amount I say we need for infrastructure, I'm including Denny in infrastructure. Well, not really infrastructure, but anyway. And so instead of just doubling it, which is what we've always done in the past, and maybe that worked out to be about the right number. I don't think that's gonna be the right number anymore, because Bloomington's doubling, we're doubling. So if we just did the doubling, for instance, in FY 27, we'd end up having like $328,000 for the infrastructure piece. That's above, you know, paying our bill, I'm saying. Like FY 24, we had like 143K for infrastructure. This year, it looks like we're gonna come out with about 178K because we had that first 32% increase last May. So we're getting, you know, like 30 grand more this year than the previous year. And that seems to be enough for now, as far as, you know, prices of things are going up. If we have to fix something, it certainly costs a lot more than it did. But it's not drastically going up. So instead of doing the doubling thing that I think we've done for a long, long time, I'm suggesting we pick a number. I picked the number 200,000, you know, to account that, you know, we have some infrastructure costs going up. You know, we're getting a second employee, we hope, and things like that. So instead of that 328,000 number in FY 27 that we'd be doing if we just kept doing the doubling, we'll just hold it at 200K every year. We'll figure out as Bloomington increases our prices, what they're gonna charge us. We buy about 36 million gallons a year. We charge out to the people about 34 million gallons a year. Hopefully we keep losing about 2 million gallons a year instead of, you know, 15 million. If that's the case, the 200,000, we should just keep that constant. If we see a problem that we need more, or we can deal with less, we could change this number at any time. This is something we just get to pick. And we can change it at any monthly meeting and change the rate we bill people if we need to, right? So we should do the best we can to have the best number here so that we're getting just the money we need. And I'm proposing now for 200,000, and like I say, maybe we lower that in the future. I do want to call out how, you know, it's on the spreadsheet, so if you were able to digest all the stuff I put, You know, in fiscal year 21, it looks like we lost about 15 million gallons of water. In fiscal year 24, we lost 1.6 million. And so we found, you know, over 13 million gallons of water. We stopped 13 million gallons of water loss because basically of Denny's work. And he should be commended for that. He got the guy that listens to fire hydrants with the stethoscope or whatever out here, found a whole bunch of leaks. That 13 million gallons of water that we were losing was about 50 grand. So that's awesome. But it'd be really awesome if we continue to keep those leaks down and stay at about 2 million loss a year, which is a great number. If you know, talk to the EPA or something, that's a very good number. You think, oh my God, 2 million gallons, that's a lot of water. Well, pipes leak. So apparently that's a good number if you look at everybody else's. So anyway, you know, Denny's doing an awesome job there. He took the initiative to do that. Nobody made him. And so that's great we got that down. But did that make sense to people that I'm saying instead of doubling, we're just gonna
Yes.
figure out how much it's gonna cost us to buy 36 million gallons of water for that year, based on what Bloomington's charging us, add 200,000 to that, and then use that total to decide what we have to bill residents per 100 gallons.
Mhm.
And the numbers are in that spreadsheet, you know, it's 120 to then $1.41 and $1.61 per 100 gallons. It's certainly way less than what the doubling would be. Any questions, thoughts?
Appreciate the work you put into.
Yeah, the only hard part is
Calculation.
deciding that 200,000 number.
Yeah.
And that's my guess. If anybody wants to say that's too high, you know, I think that's a high number. I think we could probably do it lower. But you know, we can lower it too. Basically, at the end of the year, if we look and it's like, look, we didn't spend a lot of this money, or prices aren't going up as fast as we're afraid they are, you know, we can lower it too. So we should do due diligence to make sure we're not overbilling people.
I agree with only taking in what we need, but I also am nervous about not taking in enough and then having a big project come up that we're needing. I feel like if we can start closer to that 200 number, so that way we know we have enough at that point, and then we can continue to reevaluate and lower it. I
Yeah.
think that will feel better to community members too, to hear like, okay, it went down a little and now we can go down a little more, instead of we took it down and now we have to take it back up again.
Yeah, and we don't talk about it a lot, but we do have that water reserve fund that Sarah rotates through the CDs, and some of that money is to paint the water tower in 10 years and stuff, right? Because that costs a fortune, so we gotta save ahead of time for that. But you know, there's $1 million in there or something, so we do have a huge cushion if we're way low on this or have some real bad stuff. Or if the water loss gets back up to 30% because our 50-year-old pipes, maybe we have a little tremor, right? That was the thing that's been worrying me lately, is these concrete asbestos pipes, we have a little tremor maybe, and watch them start leaking. And we do have that fund that we could take water out of to keep things running until we figure it out, but yeah,
If
there's,
you look at the increases over the years, it's for infrastructure, like, has that been sufficient amount over the last 6 years? It's built into here already.
yeah, so the number we're gonna be at this year, in the blue on the right is 178.
Quite a bit.
Yeah, it's
Because
178.
we did the 33.
Right.
Yeah.
Those previous years, we weren't raising it, we just were losing less water. So what we had left over
Mhm.
to spend on infrastructure went back up.
Right.
So all those, like fiscal year 19 through 21, Bloomington wasn't changing the rate they were charging us. So all those were the same rate that water costs.
Yeah.
That difference in what we had for infrastructure was because we reduced the water loss, Denny reduced the water loss.
Right.
But so we got 178 this year is what our budget numbers are. And the last time I talked to Sarah, we still had 60,000 in there. So we didn't spend 168, we spent more like 120, but there was a couple months left, I guess, last time I talked to her, so we spent some. But we didn't spend that whole, every year she puts a little bit of money left over in water into the CD.
Mhm.
That's why that's $1.4 million. So we're really only spending maybe like 130 or something. like that.
Right.
So 200, you know, pretty
That is
high.
high.
But costs are going up and stuff too. I don't know, we can make it lower.
But you have the reserve, we have the reserve,
We do,
and if you knew anything was coming, and then that's where you can make the adjustment, then
absolutely.
to have another thing that is just in case we need it. you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so I could try to look at, I kind of figured some of this out after I even did the spreadsheet that, oh, we put money in the reserve every year and stuff. So I could go back and come up with some more numbers on that, on what we budgeted, what we actually spent, and just see how much we've actually
I think
spent.
that'd be more like solid.
Yeah.
Piece of information to make a
Okay.
really educated
Okay.
decision.
Yeah, because this is water only as opposed to like the general fund and the tax money we're getting. We can only spend this on water. So we
Right,
really don't want too much here
yeah.
because we can't spend it on other stuff.
Mhm.
So, okay, yeah, I'll look and we'll see if we can get that number down a little bit based on, what we actually spent some previous years as opposed to, this was all budgeted numbers as opposed to what we actually spent.
Mhm.
Maybe some we spent more even, I don't know. Any other, I didn't have this to vote on, I just had this to talk about, so send me questions if you have any other questions or any ideas. And then the other item I had on my agenda, since we have this, right, since we're raising prices, I'd like to get rid of the $2.50 meter fee. It's in people's faces, they get their bill every month, it's like, why are they charging me another $2.50? I'd like to get rid of that fee, because in the end, it's just money we were collecting to buy meters. It doesn't really matter how we collect the money, we're gonna be collecting this
Mhm.
200 or whatever. We'll work that into whatever we make the 200, right, that we have enough to buy meters. So instead of calling out the meter fee separate, I'm just saying we get rid of it.
I support that.
Anybody think it's good to still have the meter fee? We did it, I guess, because we thought we wanted to have this separate fund
Mhm.
and have it allocated just for meters, so we couldn't use it for something else, but it's not a ton of money in the end. It's, what you figure, Bill, it's like 19 grand a year or something.
That's what we've got allocated, this year for revenue. I mean,
Yeah. So it's not a ton of money to have separated. We got a whole bunch of money in the water reserve. We really don't need this separate meter fee, I don't think. Just like to get it off people's bills.
but you gotta keep that in mind for the 200,000.
Yeah. Yeah, when I was doing these spreadsheets, I was removing that actually, but
Right.
it comes in on the expenses or comes in on the revenues and goes out on the expenses.
Mhm.
Now it will only go out on the expenses, yeah.
Exactly.
So it's just part of the calculation that. If nobody's got any questions, I'd like to make a motion to remove the $2.50 meter fee from the water bills.
One second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to remove the $2.50 surcharge for water meters on the water bill. Do we have any final questions or discussion? Not Allison, roll call vote.
Joe Boyd,
Yes,
Bill Morris,
Yes.
Lynn Norris,
Yes.
Ashley Richard,
Yes.
Ally Shoemaker, yes.
and that's all I had.
Joe, I know you spent a lot of time on this and we all appreciate what you've done for this. And I think you're heading in a great direction on the billing, so. Look forward to seeing what you got next month.
Joe, just a quick question then. How do we guide Sarah to May 1st billing?
It's not till like July that we have to do that.
Well, the dropping of the meter fee though,
Oh.
tonight, that'll come up on the May 1st bill.
Okay. Yeah, drop it whenever you can, I guess, if somewhere.
April's already out, so it'll be the
Yeah.
May bill.
Is that what you're asking, Phil?
Well, yeah, but I mean, what you got calculated here for 25, 26 is $1.41. Is what it works out to, so she'll have to adjust her rates.
That'll be whenever you guys vote on that.
I have to
later on.
write a whole ordinance for that. Remember, the actual prices are in our ordinance. I have to do the whole ordinance to
So
change
right now,
those.
you're just staying.
It'll stay the same until that is voted on. I
Yeah.
can drop the meter fee right now, but the rest will stay the
When
same.
do we get, when do we get our increase from Bloomington?
I think it was like May last year. We didn't put it on the bills until July because we billed a month behind and we didn't want to charge people before. So we ate the cost of it for that month. And then
Okay,
it went on to the July 1 bill last year.
So
So it
we
need to be
should-
done before July.
We should vote next
Has to be
meeting.
done May or
whatever.
June, no later.
Yeah, it doesn't completely matter. We're just getting billed more than we're. Looked at so late a month, it's not a big deal, but yeah, we should do it next meeting.
Okay, so knowing that our water revenues and expenses are gonna be changed next year, what's in our budget right now for next year? What did we plan on, a 33% increase on both?
We did. Mhm.
Okay, so the revenue then will be reduced. Have you got an estimate on how much we should reduce that for the budget? If we wanna go ahead and pass it later on tonight, we wanna get that adjustment in
We also need to take out the meter fee,
tonight.
on the expense and the revenue side, so that'll get removed in the budget as well.
Oh, you're saying, you're saying to vote on the budget tonight, how much should the,
It would be good if we can adjust the water revenue down, because the rate isn't gonna be a full 33% increase.
That's what I was asking you earlier, Sarah, was, does that 19,000, if we take it out, does that affect our general fund budget?
It doesn't affect the general fund, it's just the water fund.
Just the water part.
Right.
yeah, I hadn't thought about voting on the budget tonight, but first it should change. Because water's a separate thing. What I'm saying we do is the 200,000, which is gonna be well above what we're spending. But yeah, the numbers in the spreadsheet do change, I guess, because the numbers we had said in the spreadsheet should have been way too high. They should have been way over what we needed. I have to look at that real quick.
It would be ideal if we can pass the budget tonight, and get that wrapped up, but we wanna make sure we're trying to account for everything. If you need a few minutes to work on that, Joe, we can come back to it,
Yeah, let's come back to it real quick
okay?
and think about what you said.
Okay, we'll come back to Joe then on water. And we'll move next to, we'll come back to Lynn
This is
later,
gonna
also
bump me
after we
tonight.
come back to Joe. So we'll move on to street department, Phil.
Have no street business this evening. I guess when you go to Kevin, he's asked me to make a motion on transferring the money, so.
Yeah, okay, we'll cover that under police,
Right, or, yeah,
okay? Next is the ordinance and zoning department, trustee Ashley.
So I didn't have anything on the agenda, but I just kind of want to recap the planning commission's meeting from Monday night, yeah, Monday. So there will be a survey that the planning commission is gonna send out. There will be paper copies as well as a digital copy, just trying to get feedback from our community of things they'd like to see brought to the community or done within the community. So we're working on that. We'll get information out on the Quill, and Facebook sites, and like I said, paper copies as well. We have been looking and reviewing the 20-year plan that Hudson has. Sarah's gonna be able, she said, able to make it editable for us, so we can take some things out that no longer apply and add some things in that we would like to see happen, but we're hoping this survey will help guide us to what our 20-year plan should have in it. So are there any questions about?
And
Any
I'd
of
just
that?
like to add, the 20-year plan is the one from 95.
Yeah.
And we would merge the 10-year plan that the planning commission did,
Yeah.
finished a couple of years ago, in with the 20-year plan from 95.
Yep.
There's a lot of different information in the two different plans, so.
Yep, and the 95 plan had a lot of valuable, very good information in it, so that's the one we're looking at making editable, taking some things out and adjusting to what we need for the next 20 years, so.
Okay, thank you, Ashley. Anything else?
No,
Okay. Next, we'll move on to police department trustee Kevin. He is not here, but he asked Phil to cover the transfers.
yeah, they needed to transfer some money, move some money around for the generator. And Sarah said that we need to transfer $6,000 from training, which is line 01-51-0241. And transfer that to equipment, 01-51-6-0630. 5,000 of that. And vehicle maintenance, 01-51-2-0281, $1,000. That's all I have.
Okay, so we need to transfer money to pay for the generator for the police department. So everyone's aware, when the generator quit, when we found out it wasn't working, was when we had a power outage a couple weeks ago. We could not get the police vehicles out of the garage here because the generator quit. So it is critical we get one of those. Phil, was yours a motion?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion to transfer money. Do we have a second for that motion?
Just really quick, Pat got to Sarah, and this needs to be a resolution, have to be tonight, right, because it's easy resolution. So we're gonna give that the number 20-19.
Thank you, Allison. Phil, would you like to change that from a motion to a resolution?
Yes, I'll change that motion to resolution number 20-19.
Okay, so we have a motion to adopt resolution 2019, which would transfer $6,000 out of training, with $5,000 going to equipment and $1,000 going to vehicle maintenance. The specific item line numbers will be in the minutes. I think Allison has those. So is there a second for that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, so a motion and a second. Is there any final questions or discussions on the transfers? Not, Allison, vote, roll call?
Joe Boyd,
Yes.
Phil Morris,
Yes.
Lynn Norris.
Yes.
Ashley Richard,
Yes.
Sally Schuster, yes.
Okay, thank you. We're gonna move on to public property. Trustee Natalie.
Just working on baseball stuff, getting plans together for the park. Getting to talk about what that looks like, staffing as far as the concession stand, lots of balls in the air, figuring that stuff out, but nothing major to report.
Have any questions for Natalie? Okay, if not, Joe, have you had enough time to,
Yes.
okay,
You won't be extremely confident in my numbers, but I'm not. But it looks like what we have in the budget is about right. And I'm trying to figure out if we didn't do the 33% right for the increases. The numbers I had that we're gonna bill with the 200K increase this year, or what we have in the budget actually. I think our budget's okay, and we vote on it, and I have to look some more to understand why they're okay.
okay, I'm good. Thanks for double checking that.
Yeah, I do think that the budget's okay though.
Excellent. Okay, Joe, did you have anything else then, underwater? Okay, if not, then we'll move on to finance, budget contracts, and employees. Trustee Glenn.
Yep, first I want to thank Sarah for her stellar and making the budget sessions super easy. Her knowledge of this organization. Sarah's been a pleasure. So any further discussion on any of the budget items? It's fiscal year 2026. Okay. So I would like to make a motion to approve fiscal year 2026 budget.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the final product of the budget out of our sessions to create the budget. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any final questions or discussions on the budget for next year? Not, Allison, roll call?
Joe Boyd,
Yes.
Phil Morris,
Yes.
Lynn Norris.
Yes.
Ashley Richard,
Yes.
Sally Schuster, yes.
Sarah, again, thanks for your work on that, your organization and work on it saves everybody tons of time. It's a really good process the way you set that up, so thank you. Lynn, do you have anything else? Okay, I'm gonna bring this up now before we go into closed session. As liquor commissioner, I have nothing to report this month, no changes. This is the last meeting for some of our trustees and for Allison. And Allison, how long have you been a clerk?
18 years.
18 years. You've done a fantastic job. You really have. Your minutes have been excellent, and I think, Bill, for one, has been on a trustee role for a long time, longer than you've been a clerk. And so I think he can attest to how we appreciate, you know, the job you do on the minutes. It's really good. And I want to thank Lynn and Ashley for being trustees and, doing a great job. I think we've accomplished a lot. So I want to thank the three of you. So our next item on the agenda is to move into closed session. The only item in closed session will be the 6-month review of closed meeting minutes, deciding whether or not any of those can be opened up. So we need a motion to move to closed session.
I motion to move into closed session.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Allison, roll call.
Bill Boyd.
Yes.
Bill Morris.
Yes.
Lynn Norris.
Yes.
Ashley Richard.
Yes.
Ellie Schulman.
Yeah.
Okay, so during closed session, we have to ask our audience to